how's that cough doing?
I'm doing good, man. How's your cough doing?
It's there. It's still very much there. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Artist Way. I am Max Randolph, and joining me is Damian Skinner. Say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, I am very excited. And well, this journey has already taken me on kind of this wild thought experiment. It's actually I'm not even into chapter one yet, and I'm really excited. And it's interesting too because I've kind of started to discover that I've automatically just being perhaps being isolated as a kid
Hmm.
has kind of made me do these things automatically, and it's
Yeah,
really interesting to see these actually laid out.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. I've actually had a couple other friends tell me that it took them back to a practice that they knew that they had when they were younger. I connect a lot of the artist way to trauma and how we recover from trauma. As you know, um, that is such a trauma based response to retreat, to be in seclusion. Now, there's people like me that like to have plenty of time by myself, but a lot of us started as artists when we were hiding or spending time away. The parents are screaming and yelling in the other room. And then you go all these years and you sit down and you do morning pages. It's super early and you start getting kind of flashbacks, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. It can be really scary, some of the thoughts that come to your mind that early doing morning pages.
Yeah, and we'll cover into that. Oh, the morning pages,
Yep.
dude. Okay, so if you will, let's do like a little recap of what
Sure.
we covered last week.
You bet. So, we split the introduction into two parts because it covers so much ground. It really does. Last week what we really came across was whether you're a person that believes in a God, believes in a creator, whether you're religious, and those aren't always the same thing. We kind of diced up all the different ways that you can access something, which you really need in order for this book to not drive you crazy. Throughout this entire book, the author, Julia Cameron, she talks about God. She talks about a source, which is my favorite term to use. She talks
Source is
about
good.
a, yeah, she talks about a creator. And so we were just stating, go ahead and come to terms with some term that's not going to be, triggering or upsetting for you before you even get into this book, you know. Um,
Absolutely.
and that, and then just discussing, it's so funny, just the idea of morning pages pretty much took over the rest of the first session because everybody's just their reaction is just resistance, 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 so that we
Well,
really just kind of introduced that, and then we talked about the artist date, which we'll talk about more today in depth.
oh, good, good, good. Because I have a lot of questions about the artist date.
Okay, cool.
Wonderful. Yeah. So morning pages were a struggle. All right, I gotta tell you. Well, and also, we've all been pushed through. At least most of us have been pushed through the I don't know, the public school experience
Mm,
where, when you write an essay, it has to be formulated in this, you have to have your paragraphs organized in this way and
yeah, structure.
structure. And there's nothing perfect, there's nothing art about morning pages. It's just stream of, consciousness.
Yeah.
And that was my first biggest hurdle. That was the biggest hurdle I had to cross. But once I crossed it, I think I crossed it at like day three.
Okay. Yeah. Day three is usually where there's either like a breakthrough of some sort, or you at least kind of start going, all right, I think I see where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was intense. It evoked a lot of anger. It revoked a lot of stuff, and then it was like a lot of gratitude, a lot of
Mm,
gratefulness,
yeah.
because I got a lot more comfortable with just letting, like, I almost felt like, especially in that lucid, nebulous state at the beginning
Right.
of the day.
Yep.
I feel like I always have my creativity either like on lock. Think of it like a hose bib in
Sure.
the side of a house. We all have that, in our mind, and and you have that valve just tight. If
Yeah.
you're trying to be productive, if you're trying to be whatever, and maybe sometimes I'll crack that thing open. It felt really good to just let that thing kind of open
Yeah.
up and send that straight to the page.
Yeah. Which it's
That
interesting
was
that you
awesome.
say that because she talks about in the introduction about it being like a floodgate. You know,
Mm.
she actually gives the analogy of old farmland. I believe this is in the introduction. Old farmland, and up a hill, there's a well, and then they've got like that floodgate, and you get this. Everything gets dried out, everything gets brittle and crunchy. There's no water. It's that middle of summer crunch. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? Where I don't have
Oh,
to mow
yeah.
the yard anymore, and you hit those floodgates, the rush of that is the feeling that I get. I love that you went there. I get a feeling of unbridled, unrestricted, no holds bar creative flow. And it's the beginning of the day, you know. Um, and that lucid state that you're talking about, I won't go off on a tangent, but we know the best times to do things like meditation, the best times to do a lot of these things is when you're in a transitional state, either waking up or going to sleep. Uh, Neuroscience has pointed out that what you think about in those transition times, especially nighttime going to sleep, your subconscious is now going to spend the rest of the night processing that. So if you're laying in bed and you're thinking about bills, your subconscious is going to process about bills the whole night while you're sleeping. And then you'll wake up like, oh crap, you know.
Right.
Um, but you can do a similar thing. And I think you touched on really the neuroscience trick of this whole book. This whole thing is about tricking our minds into basically being more free to express itself, more
Right.
creative. And
And well,
go
like
ahead.
reaching that flow state,
Yes.
so I've been a professional artist for pretty much my entire life.
Yeah.
20, yeah. Well, in metalworking over 20 years now, and I can definitely recognize flow state, and it's a lucid animal or
Yeah.
elusive. There we go. I'm thinking
Yeah.
of lucid. Anyways,
I like a
yeah.
lucid animal. That's cool.
Hey, let's bring them together. Yeah,
That's right.
it's a circle. Yeah, and reaching that flow state and like connecting your brain without any blocks straight to your hand.
Right.
And I'm already starting to appreciate what's kind of it's
Yeah.
sneaky.
Yeah.
This
Well,
book
that
is
that
sneaky.
early morning, it sets your subconscious for the day.
Mm,
You do that in the morning. You go on about your day. You're problem solving. Do whatever you need to do, paying bills, whatever. But your
yeah.
subconscious is now flowing differently than it does normally. So, one of the things I wanted to make sure we get a chance to do is really look to more comments about like how everybody else is. And I can't see the comments. Can you see them?
Well, right now they're pretty quiet. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I would actually love to hear from the chat how
Yes.
everyone's morning page has been going because right now the Discord has it's been a lot of fun reading
Yeah.
how everyone's experiences has have been. There's most of the days I only got to like 2 pages. I felt solid at 2 pages.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm kind of cheating myself a little bit,
Sure.
but after that 2 pages, I felt awake, I felt alert, I felt clear.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really want to hear what the chat has to say about these morning pages.
Yeah.
And I could definitely recognize a lot of that structure, those blocks when it came to structure
Hmm.
that you mentioned.
Yeah. It's some of the very first things that people start having to process is you realize how much you hold yourself to structure, and how
Mm,
much the minute your mind is forced to let go of structure, you start accusing yourself of things. Laziness, this. I should have gone to bed earlier. I should eat better. Like we're going to talk about the great censor, um, because it's a bastard, right? I mean, it's there for
bastard.
everybody. But I don't know the best way to do this. If you can see like chats or
Here
anybody,
we
if
go.
you, yeah, there you go.
We got Robin says, we'll start tomorrow against my willingness to go against rules.
Yeah,
Oh,
I, I'm telling you, it's the most wild of people. The artists that you might judge yourself against. There's always these tiers of artists. Like those
sure.
guys are real artists. Those people are real art. I wish I was like that. Imposter syndrome and all that.
Of course.
These back when I was younger and doing morning pages, I thought artists were just like all out of their mind, crazy, which this book talks a lot about those stereotypes and where we get them from. And I felt too normal to be an artist. I didn't feel
Mm.
so weird I had to be an artist. I felt too normal to be one. Being raised the way I was, and really apart from a lot of pop culture and all that. And so, what happened was the minute I started walking with some of these people that I really respect through morning pages, watching them fall to pieces because of the lack of structure completely
Mm.
changed my mind for the rest of my life. it it's not some people are prolific and some people aren't. We are all trained to believe that there's a structure, and if we're not following it, we're a piece of something, or we're lazy, or we're doing something wrong. And it will change your whole course of your day to be in that state of consciousness.
100%. Jenna just mentioned being trying so hard to do it uncentered, just stream of consciousness,
Yeah.
and it's hard. It's like that is something that is truly just beaten out of our heads.
Yeah.
We have another one from Lacey. I most definitely
Nope.
said many things about myself. Ooh, said many things about myself. What? It's an intense self discovery,
It is.
and it's weird to see your internal monologue on a page.
Right.
And it's so intense. It's insane too, because I mean I shouldn't say insane, but it feels that way.
Yeah.
Oh, what does Steve say? Depends on your definition of normal, being part of the hive mind, it's
Yeah.
normal structure versus yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Steve. The well, and what's interesting about our sensor, I just read. We went over it together earlier. The introduction.
Right.
My seatbelt is fully buckled now. I'm ready to rock. This
Yeah.
is this is so up my alley. I'm ready
Yeah.
too, because I feel because I've been working on my creativity my entire life, actively, like
Hmm.
actively on it, and I have so much to learn. Versus somebody that's like maybe I'm going to try to be artistic, you
Right.
know, that's
Yeah.
starting at day one right now.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how that sensor, how they can hurt you because it's you, and only you can hurt yourself like you can.
Yeah.
What did
Well,
D
that's the
say?
truth.
Right? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
D. I missed your comment. Please, if I don't get to your comment fast enough, please spam it because so I can keep reiterating.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to the comment about saying bad things. One, this is why I keep making the joke about hide your morning pages,
Mm.
because your loved ones, your kids, whoever grabs that, you're in for a long conversation. The other thing is we are so unaware of how bad we talk to ourselves, and we've all heard if we talk to any. My dad used to say, if we talk to strangers the way we talk to ourselves, we would get our asses kicked on the daily. You know,
100%.
and this was one of the best ways for me to become conscious and aware of my internal dialogue. And it's painful, but if you keep going, you'll learn how to seize those thoughts and be able to change the thoughts. And I can tell you 100% before we move on, you
Uh-huh.
can stop the bad mouthing yourself. You can stop the hate speech internally, and you
Yeah.
can adjust it, but you have no chance unless you are first aware that you're doing it. So
That's so
that
true.
awareness is
And
everything.
Warning Pages surely pulls the blanket off and shows it.
It does.
D just said she ends her morning pages with a love note to herself. And how wonderful is that? And
That's
D
brilliant.
is wildly talented and creative, and
Brilliant.
also a terrible critic of themselves. It's actually a very dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
Robin asks, do we need the morning pages later or burn them? Ooh, burn them before
Yeah. So
I try to
I've
move
I've
on.
burned pretty much every year. I burn mine. There's something, Max, from a project we're working on. There's something
Yes.
about like that altar experience. If you're a real symbolic minded person,
Yeah.
which most of us are, burning it is great. However, I would ask you on this first round to just save them and store them so you can go back and read them when we're done with this book, because it will tell you a great deal.
Interesting. And then Steve says, not
Mm.
if him a rule Paul's statement. Oh guy
If
should
you
go so
can't love
fast.
yourself, how can you love anyone else? That's the facts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, and you can see him too, Damien. Very good.
Yeah, I'm seeing them now. I figured out how to turn them on. And something I'll suggest, and then we can talk about it offline and move on, is a lot of times we like to get together and burn our pages together. I know we're all
Oh,
over the world, but we could have a live where everybody in a nice, safe, add all the disclaimers here, burns their morning pages at the end.
that would be cool.
Yeah, it's
That
super
would be
fun.
rad. Because you're releasing, right? It's
Yep.
releasing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm looking forward to reading it at a later date because it's definitely not poetic and almost illegible. I mean,
Yes.
it's just.
Yeah. Yep.
um, but there's some meaningful stuff in there. It was funny. I'd come to these big realizations, and then then it disappears like a
Yeah.
flock of doves.
Yep.
But whew, yeah, morning pages. It's been amazing. Now, how long do you do morning pages for? Is it through this 12-week, 14-week course?
You're supposed to be doing it throughout the whole course.
Okay,
And I will tell you, I know many, many people who now do it 3, 4 times a week, and they've done it for years and years and years and just never stopped. Of
okay,
course, and I wanted to say this, and then I wanted to start talking about the censor. I think everybody's on now, and we've got a good amount of time. I need everyone to listen and really believe me when I say this. This book is not about following the rules, even these rules. It is really, for example, I'm just going to pick on you, Max, because I know you. There's a lot of good stuff in your morning pages. Who cares? There's a lot of revelation in your morning pages. Doesn't matter because the other stuff, the poo poo, this is lame, this sucks, that is just as important as those big revelations. And the reason why is this is not an exercise to become and to have a larger output of creativity. It's to
mm,
recover your own sense of self. And when I go back and read my morning pages, here's something you'll notice. They'll almost always read like you would have written them when you were a kid.
mm,
And there's some real trauma release in writing from the position of being a kid about what you're going through on a daily basis. And so a lot of times this is stuff we don't talk about until we're towards the end. But I have had a chance to look in Discord. I've never had that before. And all these times I've taught this, I've never been able to see what people are going through throughout the week. And the main tool of resistance is making sure you're doing 3 pages right away, or you're doing it. Everyone just relax. You miss a day, you miss a day. You do 2 pages, you do 2 pages. The goal is three. But I just want to beg everyone not to fall into the trap of the rules around morning pages. It's a major
mm.
trap. Does that make sense?
Ah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. Hmm,
Ooh, Jenna, thank you for sharing. That's
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 awesome.
great.
That's awesome. So let's talk about one of my favorite parts in this is the censor. Um, we were just talking about the bad voice, the way we talk to ourselves. I want to be clear to just make a distinction. There's your internal dialogue that, oh, I should be doing more. I should be doing this. There's all that guilt, right? I'm running behind. I work the spectrum. Did I spend enough time with my kids today? Did I spend enough time by myself today? It's just constant. And
Yeah.
I would say that the generation that came along right after mine and since, I've seen that just radically increase the need to better yourself every day, to read more books, to learn more languages, to eat healthier. Now, these are all great things. These are all wonderful things.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, and I've even noticed a little bit of it working its way through the Discord conversation, there's this need to be working on yourself. And what I have found in working with creatives for over 20 years is that's a dangerous spot to always hold yourself, that you always got to be working, you got to be developing, you got to be learning. There is the right to just be. You
Mm.
get to just be, Max. Like, you get to just be Max without any creative output, you know.
Damien, how dare you? When I have output, that's when I receive love, damn it.
Yeah, well, there's your drug. Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, yes, that's great. Self-awareness versus self-criticism. And
Excellent, Steve.
we can pinpoint it and name it, but knowing how to make that transition,
Yeah.
that takes some nuance. That takes some knowing how to navigate the internal halls of your mind. You
Mhm.
can't just run from this. You got to sit and you got to be, and you got to spend some time with your thoughts, and you got to spend some time reflecting. And that's why so many people turn to meditation while we are doing the artist way. People have never meditated before in their life find themselves loosely meditating, because if you're just going to churn up more and more and more stuff as you're going through this whole book, this can be really unhealthy. you know
Mm.
it it's not meant to just churn and go, oh, I've got all these blocks. It's meant to process those blocks. And the censor, I love to call it the little bastard,
The little
because
bastard.
if you remember, we know these type of characters, someone who's just always in the wings and always waiting to insult you, criticize you. Maybe you had a parent that way, or a sibling, or whatever. Maybe you had a full on bully, but the censor is the bully. It is an internal bully that sits back, looking, waiting for you to barely do anything that deviates from how you were raised to think and believe. And
Yep.
then it just pounces on you, man. And it's vicious. The censor is absolutely,
Vicious.
yeah.
And like,
Um,
I just want to reiterate something that I found in my morning pages was just like, no one can hurt you like you can hurt yourself.
yeah.
Because they know every, like, the censor, the critic, whatever you want to call it, that the
Yep.
little bastard, they know everything about you, all of your insecurities, everything, and they're going to throw every ounce of it in your face.
Yeah.
And God, I spent so many times in my life paralyzed by the censor.
I have too. I mean, I would say I've spent more time of my life paralyzed, not being creative, than I have being creative. Um,
Mm,
and that's saying something, considering I've been a professional creative for 20 plus years. I
right.
still think I've spent more time the victim, my own victim. You know what I'm saying? Like, really listening to this voice. I want to read this quote out of the book. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. The creative
Mm,
mind plays with the objects it loves. That's Jung, right? So Carl Jung, love him, whatever. The point here is, what are you spending your mental time doing?
right.
You've got a mental theater. What are you watching?
Right.
Because most of us probably aren't the programmer of our own theater, and we need to get to that point. So, what are you watching? And those that are on with us, you've had a week to do morning pages. I don't care how many times you did it or how you did it. Just start asking yourself, what is the script that's running? What's the movie running in your mind?
Right.
Because chances are great that it's this censor that's programming what you're watching, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and it's also like, at least I've noticed from my past, is it's a lot of repeating of what adults told me
yeah,
about limitations.
right.
Got to get a real job.
Yeah,
You're this, you're that. All these limitations,
yeah,
and you start to say it yourself.
yeah.
And and that was a huge one to overcome. I'm still trying to overcome it. I don't think
Sure.
we're ever without our lessons.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to give a real example from my life, and it's a vulnerable thing for me to share, but it's the truth. When I was really young and growing up, I'm the youngest. My dad and I were super close. As you know, he passed away this past summer. Um, and I can still hear him saying something to me when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And that was, he was concerned that I would never learn how to have a job, because I was always so fun and I was always so exciting to do things. And he was saying it from a place of concern. He was being a
Yeah.
good dad,
Yeah.
but I can remember it hurting that my dad thought that of me. And now I sit here, I'm 47 years old. And then, if my client list runs a little dry for a couple of weeks, because, I'm self employed, that's the first thing that pops in. Yeah, Dad called it when I was 8 or 9 years old. He knew that I
You
wouldn't be able to
knew.
hold a job.
Yep.
And Max, I got to tell you, therapy, artist way, or meditation, all the things that I love, that one's still deeply rooted. I still
Yeah.
hear it, and
Yeah.
we can't take lightly the things that were said to us when we were absorbing and developing everything around us.
Well,
Yeah.
and to in your old man probably didn't mean
No,
anything by it. Like
no.
that was probably just a passing thought.
Yep.
But how impactful that was, and because I'm trying to say like nothing against your old man.
No, of course.
Um, it's like, anyways. It's just amazing how we ruminate on
Yes.
self criticism.
Yes. And wouldn't it be awesome if we could ruminate on the good stuff? And I got to be
Yeah.
careful. I'm going to be disciplined here. I could go off on that. That's a huge sweet spot. But understand the law of polarization, right? It's a kind of a hermetic principle. If you can do one thing, you can do the opposite. So if we can
Ooh.
all naturally, subconsciously ruminate on all this shit in our head, we can all also naturally ruminate on all of the love and the praise and the excitement. We just have to identify this mechanism and adjust it. And I promise you, morning pages is a massive way of learning that. It brings forth what you're ruminating on. I mean, have you had the thought yet, Max, during morning pages? How am I already thinking about this? I just woke up, you know,
Oh yeah.
because
No, the mind is incredible.
yeah, your mind didn't go to sleep. Your mind was racing on whatever you've been feeding it. And I don't just mean TV and music. I mean, I love the word ruminating. What
Mhm.
we're ruminating on. And it's my heart's desire for everyone, but especially on here, that we would learn how to use that mechanism and forge it in a different way that we can ruminate all the time on love and the possibilities of life, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Love
that's
love
the
for others,
goal.
love for self. Well, and also Lacey, I saw your comment, and I think we all need to hear this say one. We all need to hear you say this one more time. What was it about? If you could do one thing, you can.
The polarization. So if you know you can do one thing, for
Yeah.
example, constantly talk horrible to yourself,
Hmm.
right? Then we know by logic that you can do the opposite of that, which is constantly talk positive to yourself.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Ruminate on that. Ruminate on the fact that if you can hate with great passion, you can love with great passion. People that are capable, it's a hermetic principle, right? So there's the
Yeah.
hermetic teaching like as above, so below. Another one is the rule of polarization. So this is one of the ways that we become aware of what we're capable of. And this is important. I wrote this down that I wanted to make sure I say this. And I want to say this so carefully. So please let me just get this out. It's a little tricky. I have many, many, many learning disabilities, many, many, many issues. I've been diagnosed with many things. We have to be careful when we're learning about this. Listen to the voice that comes in and says, well, that might be true for you, but I was diagnosed with enter the letters, enter the numbers,
Of course.
XYZ. And that's part of this process. The reason I want to be so careful is I'm not dogging on that, right? I've been diagnosed with PTSD and dyslexia and so many different things.
Yeah.
But what I found in myself is as I was going through this journey, that kept coming up as a reason why I'm different than you guys. Like, Max can do this. If he can talk shit about himself, then he can talk positive about himself. But I can't because, I'm entering the thing.
Right.
We got to be careful with that. We got to be
Mm.
careful because before you had a learning disability, whatever the right terms you want to use, you were a soul. And
Yeah.
we're dealing with something that drops below the disabilities and the abilities. See, the abilities and the disabilities are neutralized. We're all the way down here into a heart issue that
Yeah.
we were designed to create. We don't have a choice. And if you're on this and if you're watching this, you're here because you know you don't have a choice but to be more creative. So
Yes.
just watch
Well,
out. I
it's
call
very
them landmines. Watch out for the I was diagnosed with something, so I can't do this landmine.
right. It might make things a little more challenging. Like,
Yes.
when people ask me if they can get into blacksmithing, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have different challenges. Everyone's
Right.
gonna have their own challenges, either be physical, mental, what have you,
Yep.
financial.
Yep.
Everyone has their own secret personal challenges.
Absolutely.
And we could all get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
I'm in full
somebody
agreement.
posted a comment that we wanted to
Ooh,
answer, and then I went talking to
Jenna,
them.
labels can be self-limiting.
Yeah.
Jenna,
Yeah.
way to knock it out of the park.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have a great exercise. It's a fun one. I'm going to ask everyone to do. Um,
Ooh,
I want you to draw out in
right
from
now?
your mind
Okay.
what you think your sensor looks like.
Ooh,
You don't have to show anyone, but if you want to show us next week, somehow, Max, maybe you might want to show us something, but this is not an art project. This is not a anything other than get it out and draw what it looks like. Let me tell you what I did with mine. I can't draw stick figures, like it's horrific. So
okay.
I wrote the word sensor, and then I put two fangs on the capital C, and then I put a no smoking sign over it. And
Nice.
I still have that. I have it laminated. Every time I'm in a writer's room, I take it with me and I put it on the wall. And when we're all spitting ideas, I'm pointing to that thing like, don't censor, just tell me. And as a creative process, I've learned with my team, we'll go into non-censored times where we can say anything that we need to say. And then it's okay to get back and start censoring yourself a little bit, right?
I
It's a
like
tool.
that. Yeah, visualize a caricature.
Yeah,
Humiliate the bastard. Oh,
that's
I
right.
love that.
Yeah, bring it out however you want. If you want it to be just typography or whatever, it can be a picture.
Yeah.
But I
But
would
you wanna
encourage
hear something silly? You know what I just instinctually thought of the second you made me, like, visualize the
what?
censor is was it Sesame Street? The 2, like, play critics that were up in, like,
Oh, that's
the
the
balcony?
Muppets, the judges, the
The
old guys.
Muppets.
Yes, dude.
Those bastards.
Yeah, total
But
jerks.
I'll come up with something original.
Yeah, that's great. No, I love it. And so when you do your morning pages, put your censor sign up where you can see it, have it right next to your journal, and look at that sucker. And the minute you start critiquing yourself, criticizing yourself, this is ridiculous, you know what's going on. See, we're
Interesting.
identifying the sensor, and now we're trying to create some distance between you and the sensor. Does that make sense?
Mm. Oh, and Dee had a great point about the poles, right? Like the polar opposite. You know, if you can hate yourself and you can cause yourself so much pain, you
Yeah.
can love yourself and cause you so much joy.
Yeah.
That's that's pretty awesome. I can't wait to return to these videos, years from now,
Sure. For
and just
those
my
kind
own
of
personal
nuggets.
self discovery.
Yeah. There was a comment that came up here by Robin, and I think this is really important. She's basically saying that she doesn't remember any trauma or anything like that from her childhood. So will this still be beneficial? The morning pages. The answer is yes, absolutely. And you don't necessarily have to have had horrible trauma, but we've all had some trauma, and there's no other area that we're more sensitive to than in our creative expression. So,
Mhm.
you might not have been abused and these kind of horrible things, but you certainly have experienced rejection, embarrassment, and those things can encroach in our creativity for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no escaping trauma.
No.
It doesn't matter if you grew up if, under a bridge or if went to private school and you had like wonderful parents and
Yeah.
you experienced trauma.
Yeah. And, and I don't know. I want to be careful with the time. I know I
Yes.
want to talk more about artist dates, but there's some great questions coming up here. Are we catching them?
Yeah. So do you think and put them in the ADHD? Oh, they go so fast.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and please, if we miss yours, keep sending them because we there's more likelihood that we'll catch it.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, D, like especially in like my tea times, we cover a lot of mental health. Either it be spectrum conversations, or especially ADHD. ADHD is becoming more and more common,
Yeah.
or at least more widely recognized and accepted.
Yeah.
People are getting, people are beginning to learn more about themselves. Um, it's an amazing process. But I like what you said, how you don't use that to limit yourself.
Right.
It's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
They come with challenges, but really continue to try and push and achieve.
And isn't that what we love about all great artists? You see their art, you love it, and then come to find out they didn't know how to read or write, or they couldn't hear, or they didn't have legs, or they didn't have, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
Jimi
part
Hendrix
of
didn't read music. He had
that's
no
right.
understanding of music theory, but he went out there
Yep.
and melted faces.
That's right. And that's
Yeah,
part of the journey. And what I see happening is with a increased awareness of mental health, which again, I run a nonprofit for children. It's a mental health. As you see an increase in that, you also see an increase of people accepting that they have issues, and many of them not willing to work with those issues. They're just like, well, that's
hmm,
it. I can't do this because I have that. You know, um, I do want to talk about the artist dates. I don't know.
yes. I have so
Did
many
you
questions.
get to do one?
I've been sick. I've
No,
been
that's right.
cooped up, and
That's right.
I've been going stir crazy.
Okay.
Also, I live in a cave. I'm a mushroom. I'm in the dark, and I just grow alone without any disturbing. And but I'm very extroverted. I
Yeah.
get so much inspiration by talking to people, like making new friends in the middle of a hardware store,
Sure.
probably making a bunch of people uncomfortable. But
Yep.
socializing really inspires me. So I have a question about artist date. I really want to go to Michael's.
Yeah.
Walks alone sometimes evoke some cool stuff. I do meditate in my own personal way,
Sure.
but when it comes to artist date, I think it's going to be more. I did this on accident when I didn't have a space to design. So this Starbucks near my house had large tables, and I would draw on these big graph papers, and I would go there and design. And my output was so intense when I went to
Mm.
Starbucks to design.
Yeah.
Probably because I was juiced up, but also because I was in public, I was around new energy.
There's energy flowing the whole time.
Yeah, and that just changed everything. So I definitely want to go to Michael's, but there's a coffee shop, and here is my question. Um, there's a coffee shop named Amsterdam, and it's pretty much like Cheers. I have a big personality, and I'm gonna know pretty much everyone in there, and I'm gonna be
You're
at the eye
Norm.
of a social storm.
Yeah.
I Is that considered an artist date? Because we're gonna talk about art, because there's gonna be winemakers. I'm gonna ask them how their vines are doing. I'm gonna, talk to all these creative people, or do I need to be at another coffee shop where I will not run into anybody?
I would definitely ask you to go someplace where you won't run in. You want to get as
Dang
close
it!
to you want to get as close to being by yourself as possible. Now when I'm walking through Michael's, I'm not by myself, but I'm also not in a constant dialogue with people. And you know, I, you and I are the opposite when it comes to that. Like I get drained when I'm in public.
Ah,
Like I got to get home and then I kind of energize and juice power back up. Um, but she specifies in this about being by yourself because
okay.
it's just putting yourself, and I would also ask you to do something that you haven't done before, because
Hmm.
that's why, if you go for a walk to a park you always go to, you've seen it, you've done it, and you're going to associate it to all the other times that you've been walking at that park.
And that cues really deeply into, because I work from home,
Yeah.
and usually it's not a problem. Usually I can kind of separate the two, but there's no. I know every blade of grass that
Yeah.
is between here and the shop.
Yeah.
I know every stone in cobblestone in my workshop floor. Like I got the whole place memorized.
Yeah.
It's definitely the new experience is a big one for inspiring new ideas and
Yeah.
just creative juices.
Yep. I mean, go to a different city and go to a Michael's there, or go to a different Lowe's, or go to a different hardware store that you've never been to.
Right.
You know, um, the idea is for it to be novel, not like an art class, not like I'm going to go bungee jumping. It's not like that kind of a
Okay.
thing.
Not
But
bucket list like stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you'll be amazed at just how it centers you, how it just centers. And there's a couple of exercises that'll come up where some of the things you won't be able to do unless you're going out pretty much by yourself. Like a museum is a great one. Um,
Mm.
Public libraries for me are like sacred temples. I'm not that big of a reader, but for whatever reason, I can go and sit. I can see people, but I'm not engaging with those people. And I can just kind of reflect. What was that?
Robin.
Content fit.
Robin is great. He's one of my apprentices. He's an
Oh,
incredible guy. And what's cool is he has a career, but I think for the most part, this is one that he's getting really big into blacksmithing, and I think this is one of the first times he's like getting really creative and like really kind of
awesome.
pumping out those creative juices. It's been an honor to watch him like build his craft.
Grow
But
it. Yeah.
this is hard because I'm a very social person. Like when I'm around people, it depends on the people. Some people can be draining, but for the
Yeah.
most part, people, whoo, I go nuclear.
Mm,
My well is gets so filled up. It's crazy.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'll have to. I like sketching. I like just sketching ideas.
Sure.
Um, Taking in shapes. One of the biggest things that inspires me is architecture
Mhm.
because it's shapes and like the oh gosh, corbels for cool like Victorian houses. How like the joist tails will have
Yeah.
a cool like little corbel on them or something like that. I'll draw that out and I can make that out of steel. You know, I need to get back into the habit of that, and I can't wait for my artist date. I haven't been able to because I've been contagious, but
Yeah.
soon I'll be
Well,
out
and
there.
and that's the thing. If anyone has any questions, but also I'd like to hear from anyone that did an artist date. I know on the Discord, a couple of people, did. I don't know what it was, but I know that they did them.
I
Um,
saw Robin went into the woods alone. That sounds incredible because I know like Beethoven, he wrote most of his music walking,
yeah.
the rhythm of his walk. He would
Yeah.
write music too.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I would love to hear in the chat if you've taken any artist dates and what you have done.
Yeah. For
Because
sure.
I need ideas.
Yeah.
I live in a small town. There's not a whole lot to do
Yeah.
besides, go out for wine or,
Coffee.
social stuff.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure. Um,
But yeah, I think coffee's gonna be a good one for me. But I just won't go to Amsterdam because
that's the party place.
that's
Well,
the yeah.
there's things that we've learned from neuroscience since this book was written. Um, Andrew Huberman, a guy that I watch a lot and big fan of his work, he's a neuroscientist. He talks about when you are walking in the morning, the sun and the movement going past your eyes resets your brain. Like there's neurological things that are happening. And
Nice.
I'm a big believer that pretty much all spiritual practices, we're going to wind up finding out that it's things that were really good for our brains that were releasing certain chemical sets, right?
Oh, see, chemicals in your brain, what an just art form that is.
That's right.
And
No doubt. No
balancing
doubt.
all of that. And I see Kendall, she took her watercolors outdoors.
That's
That's
awesome.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And doing things outdoors, going for a walk, even going for a long drive, there's just something about walking and moving that's why we get so much of a creative flow. Like if I drive for more than about 15 minutes, I enter into a massive creative state. So
It
I
feels maybe like private, it's your own like little zone.
Yep, it's my space. Well, the
Nice.
first several times I met you and talked to you, I was sitting in my car. Like, I mean,
I remember.
that
I
is my
remember.
creative little place that I can go. So don't
Ooh,
think about it. It doesn't have to
Robin,
be a destination. You can just be on the go for a date as well.
interesting. Yeah, and Robin said mentioned going to a museum. That's
Yeah,
a good idea.
yeah, absolutely.
There's actually a funny little museum that wants me to forge a tree, but I'm already doing that, so we're gonna have maybe talk him into something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to maybe stop in there.
Well, I look
Huh.
forward to hearing what it is, man. And it became something I dreaded artist dates more than I did morning pages. It
Because you're
just
an introvert.
Yeah, I didn't want to go out. I don't want to be now when I'm around people, I can kick it in, but
Sure.
it takes effort. You know what I'm
It
saying?
costs energy.
Yeah, but artist dates for me became something that I now do so regular that I don't even call them artist dates anymore. My whole family just knows that dad's going to go for a drive and
Yeah.
I'm going to come back and I have a notebook with me and now I use audio notes and it's just part of my day to day is I pretty much am always dating myself. It's like
That's a
it
good way. Date
it
yourself.
is.
Treat yourself because well, I think we use so much. What does the Robin say? Ooh, I well, in that I feel like that also kind of circles back into treating yourself well, talking to yourself well, treating yourself
Yeah.
well, because I think we are kind of brought up to focus maybe like on our counterpart, your spouse, your partner, what have you,
Yeah.
and kind of treat yourself like shit.
Yeah.
Uh, treat yourself like your date, like you're on a date.
That's
I
right.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
let's move to the third part that I wanted to talk about towards the end
Okay.
of the introduction, which is filling the well. Um,
Ooh,
this is we talk about morning pages and we talk about artist date. Those are the first two that kind of really get things flowing, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I love that Julia added this in this section because filling the well is going to pretty much explain to you why you need to do the artist date and why you need morning pages and why you need the other things that are coming up. Um, we all know this is really obvious to people. A lot of this is intuitive. I'm always putting out creativity. Now I need to feed myself creativity. But no one does it. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, when I
yeah.
teach this part, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, 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 yeah," and then I scratch the surface a little bit, and everyone's like, "No, I'm pretty burnt out. I don't do that at all."
And if in I think everyone walking on earth has experienced burnout
No doubt.
numerous times in their life. Like
Yeah.
when I was doing the Rayless Blades for Netflix, I was crunching. I had a lot of balls in the air, and I got super burnt out, and I'm just now kind of recovering from that.
Yeah.
Burnout
Well,
is a real thing,
that's
and
the
you
perfect
got
setup.
restocked upon.
That's the perfect setup. People are going to think we planned it. But what I was just about to say is the problem with ignoring this is that people don't understand how long the burnout has an effect. So that's the perfect setup. It's think of it as like COVID. You get
Yeah,
COVID, you're sick for a while. You get the flu, you're sick for a while. But the effects on your energy, the effects on your mind, that flu mental fog that you've been dealing with,
oh yeah,
that can last for months and for years. And a lot of people don't understand how long that can last. And
absolutely.
so when I'm dealing with people that are not creating anymore, it's almost always been they did at one point and they either got so criticized that they just shut it down or they burned out and they don't even remember burning out. It's been so long ago. They'll be like, "Yeah, I used to paint." And I made a video about this just today and put it on my TikTok. Uh, it's the perfect analogy. My wife got me a bike for Valentine's Day and I took it in to get it like all tweaked and everything. And when I went in there, the guy named Brian, I was like, "Look, I don't trust myself to do this. I haven't had a bike since I was like 14." And this dude stopped what he was doing. He looked at me and he goes, with a look of sadness, he goes, I wonder how that happened." And it caught me off guard. I was like, "That's a really good question." And I've been thinking about it. Now I'm 47. I'm on a bike. I haven't been on a bike since I was 14, and I can't even tell you. I can't even tell
Wow.
you why, right?
Yeah,
That is what happens to most of us. Burnout rarely is something that we're aware of. It normally happens in a way that we just lose interest. We kind of get kind of a low key depression. and we get
Yeah.
busy doing other things. And those other things take over. And then next thing you know, you haven't had any creative output in forever, but you're hanging out with creatives, you're supporting them, you're loving them, and your sensor is just devouring you at this stage. Like, you know,
How do
I'll
you
ask
know
this.
this? How do you
Yeah,
know this about me?
because I live it. I live it. And I'll ask everybody that's watching, you
Mm.
know, how many times have you thought to yourself, I'm not further along in my art, my creativity, or whatever because I didn't stick with it? I didn't have the discipline to stick with it. So somebody like Max, I'm just using him as an example. Someone like Max, he's light years ahead of me because he just stuck with it. He just kept producing. That's true to an extent. But what a lot of people don't understand is you had like a creative car wreck and you never recovered from it.
Right. You
And
walk around like
so
a cake neck.
that's right, and you're limping around with this thing being like, only if I had done better. You're never going to get better by criticizing yourself. You're never
Right.
going to get better by beating yourself up. But also remember that a child doesn't stop playing unless a child has a reason to stop playing. They're either told to stop playing, or they get hurt, or they fall asleep, or they're hungry, or they got to use the bathroom.
Yeah, but just those.
Yeah, but
That's such a good point.
so
Oh my gosh.
you stopped creating because something happened.
Yeah.
You weren't just a lazy prick. Something happened. And
Wow.
you've been living in burnout. Not I'm not saying you, Max. I'm talking to
No,
whoever.
no, for sure. Well, like Jenna said, like they experienced burnout for a year after a terrible job, a past job.
Hmm.
And it could be longer, like you were saying, it could be 30 years, it could
Yeah.
be most of your life. Well, and to your point, I love how it says in the basic principles, the creativity is a natural state of life
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah.
You It is just the truest natural form of people is to just be creative, to play.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just so true. And if you're not creative, if you feel like you're not playing, um, something happened, like you said.
Well, you can have whatever car you want and you can drive it as far as you want without changing the oil. I'm not talking about EVs, I'm talking about old school cars, right?
For sure.
And you can go and yes, you can be super productive. You know those people that are addicted to being productive.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, you can go, but you are going to burn your engine out. Now, the person over here, if you're being creative and you're playing, you at least have a chance to sustain a creative output. But if you're
Mhm.
pedal to the metal and you're going, you are going to break down somewhere along the way. And
It,
it's going to be a while before you get back on the road.
it is so weird. So I've been trying to learn this my entire life. So I grew up, a little bit of background about me. I grew up super blue collar. Grew up on a cattle ranch that needed, equipment always needed to be repaired.
Yep.
Cows always needed feed. Like unless you were dying,
Yeah.
you don't put your feet up. If the
Yep.
sun's up, you're doing stuff, or you're at
Yep.
least you're out of a parent's way.
Yep.
You're out of sight, out of mind, kind of thing. You are always being productive. There's no excuse,
Sure.
and you come last.
Yeah.
You know, so to unlearn that, to actually kind of take care of your engine, to change your oil and rest and fuel yourself up, like that is not the way most of us are raised,
No, it's not. It's not. And
man.
I mean, I my dad was born on a tobacco farm, and I was raised with the same principles from sunrise to sunset. You are being
Right.
productive, and I want to catch what this said.
Wait, I went to the flea market and nerded out
Oh,
over a bottle collector. Oh yeah,
yeah,
great artist date.
yeah,
I should go antiquing.
that's great. That's a great artist date for sure, for sure.
Taking.
Yep. So let me answer this. Filling the well, great. We can get an idea, and there's a lot more to why that's important. I just want to make sure people don't think I'm just saying, like, give yourself some time. No, I'm telling you that if you aren't doing some of these exercises in your life, you're going to burn out. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
live in burnout. And that's where a lot of depression comes from. We know we're living a shell of what we can be, but we don't know how it happened. And what do? We get tired from trying to figure it out. So we call it growing up, right?
Mm.
We just give it a label. I finally just had to put the toys away and grow up. No, you burned out, or you got so
Uh,
hurt that it broke your desire to create. Um, there's a few things here. I try not to read
wow.
directly, but there's some things that are so striking. Julie says, when filling the well, think of magic. Don't think of production. Think of delight. Think of shock and awe and surprise and delight and wonder. That's why my nonprofit's called Camp Wonderment, because it's meant to help kids rediscover a sense of wonder and play. So
I
after they've
love it.
experienced trauma, um, she says, and I'd love to get this tattooed somewhere, but it would be really weird. It says, "Do not think about duty, DUTY, not DOOTY. That'd be really weird. Do not do not think about what you should do. Think about what is exciting for you." And this is where responsible adults start choking out. Oh God, okay, here we go. Why? Let's be realistic. I do have this. I do have. I understand. I do too. I can give you a list of all my responsibilities, but I still have to find time to stay connected to that inner part of me. And that inner part of me was not smashed into this monkey flesh suit to look at to-do list. That's not what
Right.
this is about. The inner part of me is here to create, is to express. Um,
Yeah.
I love this teaching. You're holding a cup of coffee, somebody bumps into you, you spill the coffee on yourself, it burns you. You yell at the person, "You idiot, you made me spill my coffee," right? But a teacher explained this one time. Let's look past the fact that that was an accident. How about you're the one that had boiling hot coffee in it? It could have been cold water. It could have been apple juice. It could have been soda. And the point of it is, what spills out of you when you get hit is what's inside of you. If we aren't filling ourselves with a sense of wonder and love and creation, when life hits us, really dark shit comes out of us.
Mm.
And the more creative you are, the more true that is. So the question, how do you restock the well? Well, it's actually what you're doing when you're doing artist dates. That's why you're doing it. You are going somewhere
Thank you.
new. You're getting new experiences, new data, and I'll kind of wrap up with this. If you're just sitting at home and you're doing morning pages and you do an artist date, but you go to the same places you've always been, all of this new thought, all of this new calling of your consciousness that's starting to bubble up, it's all associating to old things that you've done. Let all these new thoughts happen when you're in a new place, and you'll make new connections
Mhm.
neurologically.
Yeah.
Walking in an antique shop that you've never been in, it's going to be a very different experience.
That's
So
interesting. Yeah, because you're living in your short-term mind. Yeah,
that's
you're
right.
you're in it. You're in the yeah, you're in the now.
Yeah.
Wow, this is heavy stuff, buddy. This is
Oh,
amazing.
it is, and I would say this to you, anyone like you, Max, who you're an output guy, and you go and thank God for it. Everyone remember,
Absolutely.
I said it last week. I'm not talking about how to be a professional artist. I'm talking about our fundamental creativity.
Yeah.
But people like you, who you do both, you have to really create a separation. Meaning, over here, I'm a creative no matter what. Over here, I'm a paid artist, right?
Mm.
Two different ego states, two different parts of who you are. And in the money side, it's about mastery. In the creative side, it's about mystery. So
Mm.
It needs, you have to get that sense of mystery and interest and a sense of wonder, which you have a good chunk of. You really
Oh
do.
yeah,
But a
always
lot of
got it.
people don't. Yeah.
Well, it was intense. I was covering this in like day 4 of my morning pages. Like I don't know how I didn't get that bashed out of me because they certainly tried.
Yeah.
They tried their damnedest to really drill that out of me, but somehow it endured. This sense of wonder, that childlike sense of wonder. I hear, good piece of music. I'm getting chills. I'm getting
Yep.
inspired.
Yep.
I see a plastic bag, whipping across the road. I'm over here like weak to the knees.
Yeah. Yeah. But
I'm very grateful for that.
yeah, you should be, because I have no idea how you didn't get that beat out of you too. I mean, most of us did. My art teacher in 8th grade failed me because I kept drawing. All my drawing assignments were comic books, and she told me comics are not art. Well, I think she got it wrong, but that's
That's
all right,
awful.
And guess what? That's my fault. I never drew again. That's why I can't do stick figures. But there's so much stuff like that that we do, and then you
Right.
just kind of turn into a shell of what you wanted to do, you know? So how do we restock the pond, so to speak?
Yeah.
You got to be kind. You got to have new experiences while you're being kind to yourself. I know most people are resistant. Oh my God, be kind to myself. Yes. And please listen to that sensor that's losing its mind right now, just going off. Oh, be kind. Yeah, that's the secret. Yes, it is. Being kind, being aware, and looking for mystery, looking for a sense of wonder, not mastery, not execution, not a to do list.
I
Um,
like that.
I'll wrap up with this. One of my favorite teachers, he's passed now, but Ram Dass, some people know who he is, some people don't. Um, Ram Dass made a famous book. It's right over here. I'd get it, but it's called Be Here Now. And the whole concept of Be Here Now is just what we today call mindfulness.
Mm.
We're really talking about developing a mindfulness that serves our creative deed. It's not serving us to criticize. It's not serving us to harass ourselves, to judge ourselves. We know that. So, those of us that want to be in control of what we're doing, let's start becoming aware of our thoughts, which is morning pages are helping you, and then go on these artist dates and bring like a real, like really show up for yourself. Like you're going
Mm.
on a date, you know, and don't just half ass it, whole ass it, as my dad always said, like,
Whole like Ron
really,
Swanson. Whole yeah.
yeah,
I
do it
love it.
like a real date, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And
there's a
Lacey recognized the book of the mindfulness. Be here now.
Be Here Now. Yeah, I mean, that's a
Nice.
whole thing. It's phenomenal, but it's really just talking about being mindful, not living in all this pent up fear. And these morning pages, I'm just going to encourage everyone, keep going. Just keep going. Don't judge yourself. Be kind about it. Get those artist dates in there. And there is, on in my book on page 23, she has a contract that she has people sign. And whether you want to do that or not, I'm going to leave that up to you guys. It's simply saying this: you got enough information now from the introduction. Are you going to commit to the course, or if it's okay if you don't feel like this is there for you? But I want to put that out to everyone right now. After 2 weeks of talking about the introduction, you should know if this is for you or not.
Mm.
And if it's not resonating, guys, this isn't a conversion game. It's not going to hurt our feelings. Don't feel like you need to participate. It may not be the right time for you. If you do feel that it's the right time, then I'm going to ask you moving forward, because next week we're going to get into chapter 1. So this
Here
week,
we
everyone
go.
needs to read chapter 1, because we're really just now getting started.
I
Yeah,
and the fact that we haven't even like broke a
getting started.
chapter yet, and
Yeah,
I'm over here having like full realizations about myself as a full-time artist. Like
yeah,
I'm really excited for what's in this meaty thing. I'm really excited.
yeah.
I'm all in. No contract needed.
Good.
Um, yeah, this is. This is going to be tremendous. Now, what do you think? Do you want to open up to the chat if they have any
I
questions
do.
for us?
Yeah, let's get
Perfect.
some questions out, and then yeah.
Oh, I'll have my lawyer look it over, says Robin.
I've never had anybody say that. That's greatness.
Well, Robin is a one of a kind. Let me tell you what. He is
Yeah,
hilarious.
hilarious.
He almost made me cough my lungs out. Thanks, Robin. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
Robin says D. Oh, and I'm actually really excited for Dee to be a part of this project as well. I hope you don't feel that Dion that you see in the chat.
Mhm.
She is truly spectacular in so many facets, and I know that they also judge themselves a lot very similar. We're all very similar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
High output, a lot of burnout. Um, but I'm really excited to just really go on this journey together, and it's a very personal one that we're doing together. I guess if that makes any sense.
It is. Yeah. Speaking of personal, this half
I was
done
I
painting
wanted to
behind
ask.
me. Yeah, it's Jafar from Aladdin when he's the old guy in the
Yeah,
prison. Um, I put this up back here because it's such a great example, and we all have to be vulnerable. I can't bring myself to finish this. There's nothing
it's
tricky to it.
incredible.
It's just been sitting there. I mean, it still has the tape on it, but I was thinking about it during morning pages. How many art projects that I just fall out of love with? Like I enjoyed it, but I feel like the process I got from doing it was the point. And then all of a sudden it's like this moment moves past and I have pieces like this all over the house, and instead of viewing them as I never finished it, all the negative stuff, they're like landmarks throughout the house of moments in the past where I had breakthroughs by just trusting my instinct. I found this piece of wood walking with my son. It's from a bookcase, and then I
Yeah,
came home and I just turned it into this. It's
that's
rough.
amazing.
But it helped me process so much. And uh, I really want to help people get out of this beating themselves up for not finishing every single project. For there's a lot of different reasons to have a lot of unfinished projects in your life, like our own self.
Absolutely.
We are unfinished, we're
Yeah.
creating, and it's okay unless someone paid you for it. It's okay
Right.
to move on.
Okay. So, buddy,
Yeah,
speaking of contracts,
yeah.
how would you like to make a deal
I'm scared.
next week? So
All right.
I'm going to continue to start. We're going to crack into chapter one.
Yep.
I'm going to continue doing morning pages. I'm going to go on my artist date.
Sweet.
But next week, us and myself and the chat need to see a little bit more done on
I can do
the
that.
old Jafar.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Not a problem. I'm planning on giving him a gold tooth, so maybe I'll do
Oh
the
yeah, he's
gold
got a.
tooth.
I remember his teeth being long and skinny. I haven't seen Aladdin in years, but I remember like the long, skinny teeth.
Yep, yep. Long teeth with like spit in it and all that. Yeah,
Oh
I'll
yeah.
add some to it for next week.
All right, deal.
Awesome.
Lacey, not finished with the trademark. Starting. Oh, took me 6 years to trim up the basement of my remodeling. Oh, Robin, gold leaf.
I,
Oh, hear
I
that?
I
Decent
I
gold leaf.
purchased gold leaf for it to do the gold leaf on the tooth. So we're
What?
vibing. Yeah, we're
I'm
vibing.
telling you. See, this community, I'm telling you, it's
It's awesome.
it's pretty good.
It is. And let's just say this. I know it's time to wrap it up, but again, I've been looking forward to this ever since last week. I mean, this is a intimate get together, and I just appreciate you letting me have access your time, because I think you're a prolific artist. I love your work, but also with your friends. This is so cool, man.
It's a family. It's amazing. What does the alarm say? Page journal. I'm not quite ready. Did you get that?
Yeah,
I
did
couldn't read
one
fast enough.
page, and they're just saying they're not sure they're quite ready. I would say
That's
not
okay.
sure falls on the ready versus the not ready. So if you're not sure, I'd say come on the trip with us and just be kind to yourself, and let's just keep going.
Yeah, and our homework is to imagine a caricature of our censor, a
That's
personal
right.
censor, our
Yep.
trash talker, our critic.
Yep.
They're the
And
worst.
again, It doesn't have to be anything creative. It can just be the word, but any way
Yeah,
that you can have it drawn so you can set it out when you're doing something and hold yourself accountable to not censor. Baby
baby
steps. That's
steps.
it. Yep.
Oh, this is I'll be Robin, we better yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
For
This
sure.
has been amazing, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to, like, since we're recording these, I can't
Yeah.
wait to relive them years from now. I'm glad that they're gonna be there for other artists.
Me too.
This
Me
is
too. I think that's
excellent.
pretty special, dude. And I think it's awesome you're providing that to a community of creatives, man. That's not a small thing. I know you don't like praise. We're working on that. But this is cool, dude. And I love you for doing it. I think it's really awesome, man.
This is incredible. I already can't wait for next week.
Yeah, me too.
Well, buddy, I hate goodbyes.
I know. We can just hang out and just stare at each other for a little bit.
We
Go,
yeah,
go.
staring contest. 1, 2, 3
Yeah.
thumbs to you.
You always
All
win. All right,
right.
man. Was that a
I can't
Will
wait to take
Ferrell
it too
reference?
far. What was that?
I thought you were doing Will Ferrell when he had the staring contest with the goat. Have you not seen that?
Oh, was it the goat? I was thinking of Step Brothers. No, that wasn't Step Brothers.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh, oh, Jenna, thank you. Well, everyone, thank you for hanging out with us in the
Awesome.
live
It's
chat.
so
Thank you for
fun, dude.
participating. We love reading your comments and your questions. And as time goes on, we'll get super good at acting on that as fast as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I have so much to think about. I have so much to digest.
You got to go for a
Take care,
walk.
everybody. Be kind to yourself.
Be kind.
Take care.
See ya.